What's going on, people? It's the YouTube Troy, aka Papa Berto, and I wanted to give you guys my initial impressions on Resident Evil 0. Alright, just to offer you guys a bit of backstory, I actually did get into the Resident Evil series starting with 4. And to the hardcore fans, that may seem like a disservice to the franchise, but the one thing that drew me in to Resident Evil 4 was that it was a third-person, over-the-shoulder shooter, right? It wasn't really about having to solve all these different puzzles and backtracking and having to be careful of inventory slots. Now granted, on Resident Evil 4, all of those things were implemented, but it was never implemented in such a way that it was tedious or seemed like a chore, and I really like that about Resident Evil 4. Now, being 21 now and going back to give Resident Evil 0 a shot, right, as opposed to when I was 14 and didn't want anything to do with these kind of titles that had the fixed camera angles, the very limited inventory slots, so on and so forth. Looking back, I actually thought that those were cons to the game, but now that I'm much older and I gave this game a try, I feel that that's what makes this game charming. Now let me just put it this way. The term survival horror on this game, to me, doesn't mean, hey, survive through these wave of zombies that come at you. It's more about using your wit, your intelligence, right? You gotta take any little hint that you get to kind of just get around to the next area of the map, and I really like that. The other thing that I really enjoy was obviously the inventory slot may be limited, but it was very resourceful to just not be that person that picks up everything you see. I did have an issue when I first played this. When I first got the game from Capcom, I did play for the first 2 hours. I was picking everything up. I was picking every herb. I was picking every little bit of ammo. And once I got to the second area of the game, I quickly found myself having to leave a lot of stuff behind because I was just filled to the brim with ammo, herbs, first aid sprays, stuff like that. And obviously, that means that in this game, you kind of have to be resourceful and only carry the things you feel you will need. And of course, you need to kind of leave empty slots for you to pick up little items that help you get through one other area of the map. I will tell you guys this, okay? I feel that the alternate controls are very well done for people that just aren't really big into the old controls from the original game. I also feel that the game itself has its own charming way of getting people into the Resident Evil series. So honestly, overall, the way this game is structured is pretty nice because obviously you also have a co-op partner. You don't play online, you can't play with another friend, but you do have 2 characters in this specific title. You can actually play as 2 characters, and you kind of have to use that mechanic in order to get around areas too, right? So for example, one character might get locked up in this one certain area, so you need to use the second character to kind of get that first character out of that situation. and I really enjoyed that as well. And of course, one character has a certain skill that the other doesn't. For example, the male character, is a lot stronger, has better offense and defense, as opposed to Rebecca, who is weaker and whatnot, but can also, she can also mix herbs and be more resourceful with those kind of things. And I really like that about the game. It makes you think, it makes you be able to be resourceful, and it forces you to kind of adapt to what the game is throwing at you. Anyways, that was my first impressions on Resident Evil Zero, and none of it was scripted, alright? Like, those are my honest opinions on the game so far. I really hope that later down the line, I'm able to make a very well edited, well put together review for you guys. And I wanted to give you clips with specific samples for that review. But it will take some time because I really am working on a walkthrough now. And I want to get some of that footage from the whole game to kind of be able to present my points a little better. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I'm out. Peace.